We are live,
Nice.
gentlemen. Hello and welcome to another episode, Dynamic Discipleship, but maybe changing the name.
Yeah.
We've been playing with daily bread, so we're thinking, break bread, have some donuts or croissants or pizza, some form of bread that we're going to eat together while we talk.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes, but. Right
see
now,
how see how our stomach goes.
Exactly.
Every episode is like, what? Bigger and bigger.
Maybe the bigger should be talking while trying to sit there and shut something
This is
down.
true. This is true. Well, right now we are still labeled as Dynamic Discipleship. So thank you for joining us, and those of you who have been following us. We are here today with Zach Campbell. He is our guest, and Zach is going to be talking to us a little bit today about
Gideon.
All right. So let's go ahead and dive right in.
Let's do it.
So Zach, briefly tell me, who is Gideon and what did he do?
So Gideon was one of the judges. So if you look in Judges 6, 7, and I think maybe 8, basically he's one of the first few kings sort of that Israel had before Saul. And so these were people sort of entrusted and empowered by God to go and deliver the Israelites from either, I guess, people doing bad things amongst the Israelites, or in Gideon's case, basically people who had conquered the Israelites, in this case the Midianites, and basically saving Israel from the conquering armies.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. Very nice.
It's like you came prepared. Yeah.
Hey, this guy right here. And I'm reading off my questions. Not quite as prepared. I don't have it memorized, but that's all right. That's all right. Did want to talk to you a little bit. We were talking a little bit off camera,
Right.
And you were saying that anytime somebody asks you about your favorite character, your go-to is Gideon.
Yeah.
And just kind of wanted to find out why is that your go-to, and I guess how do you connect with him, or what is it that makes it so that that story particularly is super exciting to you?
I think it's just a cool story. So when you see the angel of the Lord appear to Gideon, basically the Israelites have been they've been just really downtrodden by the Midianites. They've invaded. They've actually sort of drawn God's frustration because of their devotion to Baal and Asherah, and so when you see Gideon, he's kind of shocked because the angel of the Lord appears to him, and he's like, "Peace to you, mighty warrior," and Gideon's like, "What, me? I'm the youngest in my household, and my family is the smallest, and I think it's Manasseh." And so it's not the person that you would expect the angel of the Lord to appear to, and I don't think he really expected it either. And so it's just and when Gideon talks to the angel of the Lord about how it's just Israel's been taken over by the Midianites. Why haven't you done anything? And the angel of the Lord's like, "Am I not sending you?"
Yep.
And it's just that's just I like that. It's just that's just the coolest line. I think one of the coolest lines in the entire Bible is just "Am I not sending you?" And it's it's all right, I can go do it. We're gonna go do this. And so
nice.
I love it.
Nice. I know for me, I was rereading the story, and something that I caught that I don't think I really recognized before that I really like in the story of Gideon. I like the family connection. They destroyed one of the temples of Baal, and all the people were like, we're demanding that he killed, whoever did this should be dead, and blah blah blah.
Right, yeah.
And his dad stepped up and was like, "Oh, well, if Baal's really a god, why doesn't he just kill Gideon?"
yeah.
Why do we have to do it? Your God should just kill him. And I was like, that is awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
That's so cool to me.
Yeah.
And I think I think the story of Gideon, changing my page here. I think in the story of Gideon too, the one that I tend to go to first is the story of the fleece.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, it's very real to me. Because it's like, hey, I'm willing to do this, but I don't know, like, is this me? Are you actually telling me to do this? Is like Satan trying to get me to do this thing and he's gonna like trap me? Like, so if this is really you, like, do this thing, show me this sign.
Right.
And God appeases him and is like, hey, here's this sign. He's like, all right, that's cool. I just want to double check, like, do it backwards now. And God does it again. He's like, all right, I'm in. Like, there's no way I can deny it. And I know sometimes in my life, I feel like there's things that God does that I'm just like, hey, can you do that one more time? Or can you do something? Just like, I just want to know, like, how do I know it's you?
Yep.
And it's so very human.
Yes.
And I like that, because I personally have a hard time connecting sometimes with like Bible characters.
Yeah.
Like, they seem like extra human.
Yeah. And I think the more telling thing too is this is after he realizes that he's seen the angel of the Lord, and he's like, if I have your favor, like, just stay here while I prepare an offering. And he goes and prepares an offering, puts it on the rock, and the angel of the Lord, like, touches it with his staff, and it's just like, explosion. And it's just like, so he even does it after he's seen the angel of the Lord, and he recognizes that he's seen the angel of the Lord, and he's like, oh no, I've seen the angel of the Lord. And it's like, to see, for that to happen, and then it's just like, all right, like, I'm just not confident about this. Like, Lord, if you really want me to go through this, just like do this thing, and then I'll do it.
And that took some nerve also. Just, I was reading that as well when he's like in verse 17 and 18, he's like, okay, God, just wait right here, right? I'm just gonna go to this offering, just wait right here. Like, okay, like, you're telling the creator of the universe to just wait for a second while you go in.
1 minute, I'll be right back.
Like, it's not like he doesn't have anything more important to do right now. It's like, okay, I just thought that was really funny that he saw fit to be like, okay, God, just wait right here. And then later, I'm sure we'll talk more about the fleeces later, but he's like, okay, God, the first thing he says in his second or third fleece is like, okay, God, don't get mad at me. I think he literally says, don't get mad, but I want you to do one more thing for me. It's like, this guy just, like, he was funny. It was funny just seeing that, you know.
But I think it's a place that we can all kind of be sometimes. It's just like, like you said, it's like, okay, God, just, can you give me that sign one more time? Like, I just want to make sure, like, make sure I'm going in the right direction. So it's like, it's a very human thing. I think.
Is. We're all the same way. We're the exact same way sometimes.
Absolutely. Well, jumping into my questions, because I do have a couple written down. I just kind of wanted to jump in here, and have you had any moments in your life personally that were either fleece moments where, you know, God was showing you something, or you needed him to show you something and then he appeased you, or moments where, you know, you kind of felt like, oh, I'm not really the person who should be doing this, but God's like, no, go do it?
So I think the closest moment that I've had that sort of mirrors Gideon, like, I remember a couple years ago I was applying to graduate school. So I'm a grad student at NC State.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, go Pack. So I remember, like, I was applying to grad school, and like, I had a few options that I was interested in, and I applied to all of them, and I prayed that God would let me know where he wanted me to go. And I prayed, and, like, I asked it multiple times, and so it's interesting that one by one, all of the schools that I had applied to rejected me, including my top choice, which was also kind of my safety school. They didn't reject me outright, but I was on the waiting list for, like, I don't know, like a month and a half, and they said, we're going to let you know by this date. That date came and went, and I still hadn't heard from them. And so in that time, I applied to NC State, and it's like within 2 weeks, I had gotten an email from one of the members of the admissions committee for my department, and he was like, hey, can I talk to you? And I was like, sure, and we spoke on the phone. He's like, yeah, so I'm hoping to have an answer for you by the end of the week. I just need to talk with the other members of the admissions committee. This was on Monday. He called me back 3 hours later, and it's like, congratulations, you're accepted. It's like, well, there's a sign. I'm going there.
That's pretty clear. That's a pretty clear sign.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Very nice. Do you have any questions about today?
My questions are a little bit on the lighter side.
That's okay.
So
Let's do it.
You wanted to finish up the deep stuff, and then
Well,
we can
yeah.
get into.
I know you had wanted to talk about the fleeces a little bit more. So what do you have about the fleece? Let's.
So it was
talk
actually
about that.
in verse, just to rectify what I said earlier, verse 39 when Gideon said, "Do not be angry with me. Let me just make one more request." And the interesting thing is, God is just so patient during this time.
Yeah.
You know, God is like, okay, like I'm going to do every single thing that Gideon asked me to do. That takes enormous patience. I would have gone, you know what? God could have been like, I'm just going to find somebody else. This guy, he's not serious. He's not cut out for it. But I think God knew that He had set Gideon at the right place at the right time to do what He wanted him to do. You know? So I think God was just going to be patient because He knew that as long as Gideon finally got to the point where he was ready to just step out in faith, he was going to succeed, and that God would be glorified. And that's what I think God likes the underdog story as well in the Bible, like you said, Seth. Like a lot of times there's these characters that we look up to, and they're like perfect, but some of the most impactful stories in the Bible are about people that are very, very flawed people. You know, you think about the Davids and so many other people, and in this case, Gideon was. A lot of people would classify him as a coward. I think that this behavior that he's showing could be seen as very cowardly. But God is like, you know what? My name is going to get glorified when you do this. And another thing is, leading into what God's response is, it's interesting that Gideon gets like a whole bunch of men, right? He's like, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to bring like 10,000 men with me. But then God is like, that's too much. You need to go and weed them out a little bit. And God does that twice. God makes them two different times kind of like, cull the herd a little bit, and like basically like these are the men that like you're not going to take here. I think one time he's like, the men take them down to the water, the men that couple their hands, they're not good, but the ones that kind of go down and drink like dogs, you can keep them or something like that. He's basically saying that like, you know what, like there's no way that you're going to get the glory for this, Gideon, because at this point everything that I do is going to be done in my name. And I think it's pretty cool that God ensures that His name will be glorified in this by ensuring that Gideon didn't have the point where he was like, okay, I did this and we succeeded because I brought all these men.
Right.
He was like, no, I did this because God enabled me to do this.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty neat.
Yeah, and actually, so like the fleece isn't the only other time that Gideon actually gets a sign from God. It's just like when he goes to the Midianite camp with his 300 men. Like God's like, all right, so since I know you need a little bit more, like you need something to boost your spirits and like give you some more confidence, like go down to the Midianite camp, and if you're too scared, bring your assistant, and you'll come back and you'll have the confidence to basically rout the Midianites. And so he kind of goes down and like he's sitting there behind a rock listening to a couple of the Midianite sentries, and one of them's like, yeah, I had this dream that like this bushel of wheat like came tumbling down out of the hills and hit a tent and like destroyed it, and then his buddy's like, don't be fooled. This is the sword of Gideon, and the camp has been handed over to him. So it's like kind of cool how God sort of like has this Midianite prophesy, and
he's gonna win.
Yeah, and it's just like that's wild because there's no way that the Midianites probably even knew who Gideon was.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's just like, sit there and think about it. It's like, I didn't really catch that until I probably read it this morning. And it's just like, oh wow, that's more just like God just sort of building up Gideon's confidence so he'll go and actually like carry out the plan. So.
Exactly.
I like that.
Pretty cool.
That reminds us off topic. It reminds me, when I was younger, I was on a basketball team, and our team was good. Like we won most of our games.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there was one team that like gave us a run for our money, and we were always kind of nervous about. And we kind of had a similar thing. Like we were doing something one time, and we heard the other team. They were just like, "Man, they're gonna kill us!" And then we were just like, "Oh yes!" Like they think we're gonna win. So we were just like super pumped and like ready to win.
Validation from your
right.
Like
oh, they're scared of us.
Exactly.
Like, we got this.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Well. I know you've got a couple of fun questions.
Yes.
I had a couple of fun questions. Why don't we start with one of yours?
Yeah, just a little bit of fun stuff. So I'm sure that most of our viewers, how many of them they are, and you, Zach, are familiar with a little movie that came out last week, Avengers something?
Yeah, something like that. I can't
Avengers
remember.
Post-Game or something like that. There's like a tree in it.
There's a guy
There's
with a
talking
shield.
raccoon. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, it was somewhat successful, I think. They might not make another one, but it was somewhat successful. So in light of that movie, we're going to do a little bit of a superhero thing here.
Oh, okay.
So
cool.
this is a fun question, the one that you don't have preparation for, so we're going to put you on the spot.
Alrighty.
So if Gideon was a superhero, which one do you think he would be the most similar to? Marvel or DC? But let's keep it Marvel since they're better. Well, the movies are better. That's my opinion.
All right. Well, we'll have to sit here and think about this.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
That's a hard question.
It's a tough one.
I think it's Captain America.
Wow. Okay.
And so, like, I'll tell you why. So, like, in First Avenger, basically Steve Rogers, like, he's kind of like scrappy, undersized, like, and like he doesn't really have reason for confidence. Like, and I think sort of like during the story, you see him as just like, I'm not a good soldier. Like, I'm not like these other guys at this camp. Like, are you sure you didn't pick the wrong guy?
Yeah.
And the doctor, the scientist, I don't remember his name. He's like, so what do you want to go over there for? Like, you want to kill Nazis? And he's like, no, I don't want to kill anybody. But like, I believe in standing up to bullies.
Yep.
And it's just like, I think that's because he has sort of like the crisis of confidence, but ultimately he also has the strength to go and carry out the mission.
Yeah.
And there's a reason. I think there's a reason in both cases, or you see, there's in both cases, like God chose Gideon for a reason, and the scientist chose Steve Rogers for a reason.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, I'd have to say Captain America.
Oh wow, I like it.
Great answer.
Great answer. I do. My mind automatically went to Spider-Man. Because the kid, like, he's always looking for validation from Tony. He's like, are you sure? Like, did he say I should do this? Like,
That's a good one too.
So that's kind of where my mind went.
Yeah, I can see that too.
Yeah, but I was like, okay, I see where you're going there with the Captain America thing there.
He could do this all day.
Right. So one that I had, and I feel like we may have kind of covered it a little bit, but if you could go back in time and view any point in Gideon's life, what would you want to see? Or we'll give you the ability to talk to him. So like, if you could ask him something, anything you want, like, what would you ask him?
So I think I'd want to see that first charge into the Midianite camp.
Okay.
Because it's like they don't even like draw swords to attack the Midianites. It's just like they sit there and they throw them into just complete and utter confusion.
Yep.
And it's like they end up attacking each other, kind of like just sort of in the confusion and the shock of the moment. And so I think that would be really, really interesting to see, like the fact that he takes his 300 men and it's just like these countless tents and countless people and just has them like surround the camp and break torches and blow the horns. like that's, I think that would be something to see.
Okay.
And I think, I suppose one of the things I would ask him, and it's like, granted, I'm not in a great place to ask this myself, but it's like, why did you doubt?
Yeah.
Like, why did you seek the additional validation? Like, you saw the angel of the Lord, like you were told by the angel of the Lord.
Yeah.
And when you brought an offering, like, he stayed, and like took your offering, and then it's just like all these things happen. It's like, so like, why didn't you have confidence?
No, that makes sense.
And so, I mean, I think it's a question that we can definitely ask ourselves, like when it's just like when you have the like nudges of the Holy Spirit or like something along those lines. It's just like, well, if I see this person again, I'll invite them to church or something along those lines.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. I like that. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
I'd like to think if I saw an angel of the Lord zap an offering, I'd be like, all right, cool, I'm in. But like, realistically, like, we all see things, and like, we've encountered angels or been, the Holy Spirit has done things that like I'm sure other people are like, that's obvious, and
Yeah.
we just don't see
Yeah.
it. So
The disciples of the Gospels were the same way. You know,
Yeah.
The 12, they saw Jesus do a lot of things.
Yeah.
and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
very
They
true.
still had moments of doubt. How many times did Jesus say, "Oh, you have little faith"?
Yeah.
He said that a lot. He
yeah,
criticized them for lack of faith many times.
very true.
Yeah.
Very true. You got another
Yeah.
random question?
Yeah, this is kind of a little bit of a deeper question again. Also, I think it'll be interesting for us to talk about. How do you think Gideon would have interacted with Jesus? Like, what if he saw? Let's say Gideon has no idea who Jesus is, and you just kind of walk down the road one day and he sees Jesus feed 5,000 people and out of very little food. You know, like, how do you think he would have reacted to Jesus?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
'Cause I feel like I know how Jesus might have reacted to Gideon. Sort of like the you have little faith.
Mhm.
But at the same time, that's a
Because that's a different time period.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, it is.
I'd like to, like, in a non-linear, like, no timeline, I'd just be like, oh, there's another disciple. Like this
Yeah.
guy would probably just like follow him and like
Yeah.
do like he'd be like, okay, I agree with what
And
he's
that's
saying.
what I
We
wonder.
serve the same
I
God.
wonder, would Gideon follow Jesus, you know? I mean, because in this case, God approached Gideon, you
Yeah.
know? If Gideon is kind of not aware who Jesus was at the time, doesn't know that he's the son of God and things like that,
Yeah.
would he actually want to follow Jesus after he saw the things that he did? Or would he be skeptical, you know? Kind of like he was here. But then, at the end of the day, I think a lot of Gideon's doubt was about himself, you know, early on.
yeah.
If he saw Jesus and saw the things that he did, would he be prone to thinking that Jesus was the son of God? And would he want to follow him? You know, that's something
true.
interesting to think about, you know?
Yeah.
I think we all have to ask that though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About
Definitely.
ourselves. Yeah, even ourselves, you know. I mean, everything, hindsight's 2020. We look back on the disciples and say, how could you guys have doubted? But,
Yeah.
you know, in the moment, you know, we were talking about this offline again, Zach. Like, for a lot of the disciples, their validation was the resurrection a lot of times, you know. A lot of times, like, they had so much doubt at the miracles, but one thing they could not deny was the resurrection. They literally saw that everything that Jesus said happened, and it culminated in the resurrection.
Right.
And for them, that's in the moment. It was like, okay, this is truly the Son of God. And that gave them the confidence they needed. Zach, we were talking about how for a lot of their disciples, they were similar to Gideon, and that they were at times cowardly. You know, the garden, Gethsemane, they abandoned Jesus. Peter denied Jesus 3 times, you know, and, you know, a lot of times they could be seen as cowards as well. But then how did they go from that to basically being crucified and basically suffering horrendous deaths and torture, you know, for the name of Jesus, and doing it with boldness and confidence?
Yeah.
You know, they had a moment where they had that switch where they finally realized that Jesus was the Son of God, you know.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
that's
it's
cool.
it's wild. Yeah, sitting there thinking about that. Like honestly, like just can't speak. That's one of the biggest things that I think helps to build my faith is just sitting there and seeing the way the disciples were immediately after Jesus' crucifixion, where basically they went and locked themselves in a room and wouldn't come out, and then like he appears among them and says peace to you, and then it's just like he's risen, like he's here. And you see just the monumental shift in their mindset,
Right.
and like they go from just hiding to preaching the gospel boldly, and I think that's just so incredibly powerful.
Yep. Absolutely.
Very nice. Well, I have no more questions written down.
I didn't have anything else either.
You know what? Do you have a question that you'd like for us to answer?
Oh,
I know, I'm giving you the
Put it
power
back.
rights.
Pay that.
let's see.
You don't have to.
I'm sure I can come up with something.
Yeah. Not a Gideon master like you. Oh my goodness.
So I would say, like, let's see. This is harder than I thought it would be.
Or I mean, we're talking about Gideon, so I
Yeah.
mean, it could just be like anything, any additional thing you want to say about Gideon.
Yeah,
Where
that's
we're
true.
at.
Additional takeaways, because there's still a lot of. I mean, we didn't even read the rest of 7, 8, and 9. I mean, other things happen in Israel, you know, outside of Gideon. You know, there's
Right. And we'll cover that
Yeah.
at another time. We
Yeah.
just kind of wanted to focus on Gideon today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I guess have either of you ever experienced a time where it's like you've you've kind of doubted yourself or something along those lines, like Gideon, and then had God sort of reassure you in any way?
Yes, a lot of times. Trying to think of a specific example. I mean, I think that somewhat related to what you were saying, Zach. Same thing for me. You know, I applied to, since we're sticking with colleges and stuff like that, talking about your experience with college and getting into grad school, I had a similar experience for undergrad. You know, it was definitely always my dream to go to college, and NC State was my top choice. Like, that's always from day one, that's where I wanted to go, you know, when I was in high school and as a senior. And I got to a point where I was kind of doubtful, you know, it's like, is this just a dream? Like, would I end up just going to, nothing wrong with going to community college, but with me wanting to do engineering, I needed to get into a 4-year school, you know, they had a good program. So I definitely had some doubts, you know, I had some doubts that I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm going to get in. This one was kind of twofold. I was thinking, okay, I'm either not going to get in or I'm not going to have the money to pay for it, basically, you know. So in class one day, it was in my Spanish class in high school. I still remember it, my Spanish 3 class in high school. And we had laptops and things like that they let us have. And I was not paying attention in class.
So on Facebook, playing
Facebook,
Angry Birds over on the side.
Yep.
I happened to check my
remember those
email.
days.
Yeah, exactly. I happened to check my email and I saw that I had an acceptance from College of Engineering. It's like, okay, like, awesome. Like, I got it. Thank you, God. Then it's like, okay, what about the other thing, God? Like, now I gotta have the money to pay for school now.
Pay for it. How are you gonna cover that?
Exactly. And so it's funny, I applied for maybe 20 different scholarships, right? All different types of scholarships, you know, and some of them were school related and some of them were kind of like outside of school, like they would give like a scholarship or something like that to fund somebody going to school.
Yeah.
And of course a whole bunch of grants and things like that. And I was rejected for every single one of them. And I'm like, okay, like, it's like I'm gonna have like $80,000 in student loan debt now. But after that though, I got another letter. This one stated that I was chosen to be a recipient of the PAC Promise Scholarship.
Oh, nice.
It's something I had never even heard of. And it's like, it was a full ride scholarship, you know. And I was like, wow, I didn't even hear about it. I didn't apply for it, you know, and it happened. And then I just think that's something that gave me a lot of confidence. It's like, you know what, God has given me an opportunity to go to this university now. I'm going to make the most of it. And thankfully, I was able to graduate and get a degree and things like that. And yeah, that's just kind of a small little story about how God really helped me to have more confidence in that area, you know, because that's something that was a big deal for me to be able to go to college and be the first male on my dad's side of the family to go to a 4-year university and then graduate. That really meant a lot to me to be able to do that.
Nice. Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yep.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's see. For me, I guess I relate. I look at it on a little bit different way. Gideon, David, like there's lots of guys that I kind of lump into the same category of people who were unsure or messed up or, you know, something that I feel like today like is unforgivable, but God was like, oh no, like you did that thing, you shouldn't have done it, but like you're cool now, like. And for like that's super important to me because like I've done a lot of things in my past that like if I don't always understand God's grace and His mercy, and so I tend to be somebody who like, yeah, I need you to prove this to me, like am I really gonna do this because like I've already done like a lot of stuff and I, you know, kind of we were talking about it in a different episode, you know, the courage and, you know, it's not a like, oh, if I litter, I get -1 point. If I kill somebody, -10 points. Like, but like, no, like God's going to use who He's going to use.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when I see Gideon, it's like, he's like, oh, I'm not important. I'm not really like that cool. I'm not like, I didn't do anything to deserve this. Yeah. Just God decided that's who He was going to use. And He used him. So, you know, that I see that a lot in my life, where I see God using me, usually, you know, like you said, after the fact, I'm like, oh, God used me in this way, where like, I didn't necessarily see myself going after it or wasn't, you know, super confident about it. Yeah. So I'm working on that one.
Definitely. Yeah. Honestly, I think one of the things that I see about the story of Gideon is, like coming back to the "Am I not sending you?"
Right.
And it's just like sort of viewing it as like you can be the change in the world. Like you never know, like that nudge you feel, that might be God trying to use you in a particular way. And use you for the betterment of the world and for the advancement of the gospel. And so I think that's just really cool. Like am I not sending you? I think sort of having that mindset is just like mindset is like, all right, God is sending me. Like I feel compelled to do this. I feel like it's on my heart to like advance the gospel in this way, or to do international missions, to do disaster relief in countries that have been hit by natural disasters, stuff like that. And it's just like, because I mean, you don't have to just sit around and do nothing while the world burns around you. Like you can sit there with your garden hose and try and put it out. So, but yeah, I mean, like you can be the change the world needs to be, and I think that's a really powerful message.
Amen. Be the change you want to see.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Well, thank you very much, Zach.
Yeah, absolutely.
For being here. Devontae, is always a pleasure.
Always.
Thank you for your questions. All
Likewise.
of our Marvel fans out there.
Sorry, DC.
I got your back, DC. No, I cut both. I have a Marvel side of my DVD collection and then a DC side of my DVD collection.
Which one's bigger, though?
I mean, my Marvel side is a lot bigger,
Exactly.
but you know.
DC's on the come up.
Yeah, you know, they're getting there. They're getting there.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for being here with us. Let's see, something doable or for us to give. I feel like we gave a lot of good notes here. I would encourage, if you have not read the story of Gideon, if you haven't, don't really know about Judges and it's kind of tucked away there, just take a look at it. Like I said, I had to kind of refresh myself, and I was like, yo,
Likewise.
I kind of forgot about this story, and it's such a cool story, and so much stuff happened. So definitely I would encourage people to read Judges, read the story of Gideon, and we'll kind of put a little clip in the show notes there, just the story of Gideon from this chapter to this chapter, where you can find that. And we will be back in a week or so. Week-ish.
Yeah.
We'll get that posted up.
Memorial Day weekend.
It's right, the holidays. Let's get that.
We'll get something up.
Okay. And we'll have another guest with us, and we'll be talking about some more characters in the Bible.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Sounds good.
Boom, boom.
Awesome. Smooth. How long was that, by the way?
Let's see.